The billionaire sat quietly in a dusty roadside restaurant, pretending to be just another tired traveler. No one knew who he really was. His disabled young son struggled to lift a spoon, his hands shaking in silence. Then something unexpected happened. A poor waitress stepped forward, did something no one else dared to do, and in that moment, a life was about to change forever. The roadside restaurant stood alone on the edge of a cracked highway, its faded sign swinging gently in the afternoon heat. Most people only stopped there when they had no other choice. The paint on the walls was peeling, the wooden tables were old and uneven, and the smell of frying oil clung stubbornly to the air. Yet inside that humble place, lives crossed paths in ways no one could have imagined. A man walked in holding the hand of a small boy. The man wore plain clothes, simple jeans, a worn jacket, and dusty shoes. Nothing about him suggested power or wealth. His hair was neatly combed, but there was a heaviness in his eyes, the kind that comes from carrying too many unspoken burdens. This man was Daniel Royce, one of the most powerful billionaires in the country. But no one there knew that. And that was exactly how he wanted it. Beside him walked his son, Noah. Noah was 7 years old, small for his age, with soft brown hair and wide, observant eyes. His legs were weak, and his movements slow and unsteady. One of his hands trembled uncontrollably, and the other struggled to grip even the simplest objects. He suffered from a neurological condition that made everyday tasks painfully difficult. To strangers, he looked fragile. To Daniel, he was everything. Daniel guided Noah to a table near the window and helped him sit down. He placed Noah's walking aid carefully beside the chair and took a seat across from him. For a moment, Daniel simply watched his son, noticing how Noah tried to straighten his back, trying to look strong, trying not to be a burden. That silent effort broke Daniel's heart every single time. A young waitress noticed them and walked over. Her name was Lily. She couldn't have been more than 22. Her uniform was clean but old, the fabric faded from too many washes. Her shoes were worn at the edges, and her hair was tied back neatly, though a few loose strands framed her tired face. Despite the exhaustion in her eyes, she wore a gentle smile. "Good afternoon," she said softly. "What can I get for you?" Daniel ordered simply. Soup, rice, and some bread. Cheap food. Easy food. Food Noah might be able to eat. Lily nodded and walked away. As they waited, Daniel watched the restaurant quietly. Most of the customers were truck drivers or laborers, people with grease-stained hands and tired faces. Everyone seemed wrapped up in their own world. No one paid attention to Noah's shaking hands or the way he struggled just to sit comfortably. When the food arrived, Daniel placed the bowl of soup carefully in front of Noah and handed him the spoon. "Take your time," Daniel said gently. Noah nodded, his lips pressed together in concentration. He tried to lift the spoon, but his hand shook violently. The spoon clattered against the bowl, spilling soup onto the table. His face turned red. He tried again. And again. Finally, his hand gave up. The spoon fell. Noah's eyes filled with tears, but he didn't cry. He just stared at his lap, ashamed. Daniel felt his chest tighten. He wanted to help, but he also knew how much Noah wanted independence. Every time Daniel stepped in too quickly, it reminded Noah of what he couldn't do. Around them, a few people glanced over, then quickly looked away. Some whispered. Some sighed impatiently. No one offered help. No one except Lily. She had been watching from behind the counter. She walked over slowly, careful not to embarrass the child. She crouched down slightly, so she was at Noah's eye level, and smiled warmly. "Hey there," she said softly. "That soup can be tricky sometimes." Noah looked up, surprised. He didn't respond, but he didn't look away either. Lily turned to Daniel. Would it be okay if I help him? She asked, her voice respectful, not assuming anything. Daniel hesitated for a moment. Then he nodded. Lily pulled up a chair and sat beside Noah. She picked up the spoon gently and placed it back in Noah's hand, guiding his fingers patiently. Let's do it together, she said. Slow and easy. She steadied his hand with hers, not forcing, not rushing. The spoon made its way to Noah's mouth. A small victory. Noah swallowed and looked at her with wide eyes. She smiled brighter. See? You did that. For the first time that day, Noah smiled back. Lily continued feeding him, spoon by spoon, talking softly about little things, the weather, the stray cat that sometimes slept behind the restaurant, how soup tasted better when it wasn't too hot. She treated Noah like a normal child, not like a problem to be solved. When the soup ran low, Lily noticed Noah still looked hungry. She stood up. Wait here, she said. A moment later, she returned with a small plate of bread and a boiled egg. Daniel frowned slightly. We didn't order that. Lily shook her head. It's okay, she said quietly. It's on me. Daniel noticed her slip a few coins back into her pocket, her own pocket. He said nothing, but his eyes followed her as she continued helping Noah eat, never once checking if anyone was watching. Something shifted inside Daniel's chest. This young woman, who barely earned enough to survive, had given more than many rich people ever would. She didn't ask questions. She didn't expect thanks. She simply saw a child struggling and chose kindness. As Noah finished eating, he looked stronger, calmer. Hope flickered in his eyes. Daniel leaned back in his chair, his heart heavy but full. In that small, forgotten restaurant, a billionaire realized something important. And in that moment, he decided to test fate itself. Because Lily had no idea. This was only the beginning. Daniel paid the bill quietly, sliding a few extra notes beneath the plate. Lily tried to refuse, her hand hovering uncertainly, but Daniel gently pushed the money back toward her. For the extra food, he said simply. She hesitated, then nodded. Thank you, she replied, though her voice carried more gratitude than the situation suggested. It was clear that every small amount mattered to her. As Daniel helped Noah stand, Lily knelt to adjust the boy's walking aid. You did really well today, she told him. I hope the soup gave you superhero strength. Noah giggled softly, a sound Daniel didn't hear often enough. Thank you, Noah whispered. Lily smiled at him like he'd just given her a treasure. Daniel and Noah stepped outside into the warm air. The door closed behind them, and Lily returned to her work, unaware that her simple kindness had just set something much larger in motion. Daniel didn't leave immediately. Instead, he helped Noah into the car and told him to rest. Noah leaned his head against the seat, already drowsy, comforted by the meal and the gentle attention he'd received. Daniel sat in the driver's seat, hands on the steering wheel, staring at the restaurant through the windshield. He had seen charity before. He had funded hospitals, signed checks for foundations, attended elegant fundraisers where people spoke beautifully about helping others. But what he had just witnessed felt different. This was raw, unfiltered, unnoticed kindness. And Daniel wanted to know if it was real. Over the years, he had learned a painful truth. Some people were kind only when they expected something in return. Others changed the moment money or power entered the room. He needed to know which kind of person Lily was, not for suspicion, but because what he was considering required a heart that couldn't be bought. He made a decision. The next afternoon, Daniel returned to the restaurant alone. This time, he looked even more ordinary. Creased shirt, tired eyes, and a worried expression carefully practiced. Lily recognized him immediately. Oh, hi, she said with a small smile. How's your son today? Daniel's throat tightened for just a second. He's okay, he replied. Resting. She nodded, clearly relieved. That's good. Daniel sat at the counter and ordered tea. He waited until the place quieted before speaking again. Can I ask you something? He said. Of course, Lily replied, wiping the counter. Yesterday, Daniel began, keeping his voice low, you helped my son. You even paid for extra food. Why? Lily looked slightly confused by the question. She shrugged gently. He was hungry, and he needed help. Daniel studied her face. You didn't know who we were. You didn't know if we could pay you back. She gave a small, sad smile. Most people who need help can't pay you back. If that's the reason you help, then it's not really help, is it? Her words hit Daniel harder than any business negotiation ever had. He nodded slowly. That's very true. Daniel paused, then said carefully, What if I told you I needed help too? Lily straightened, concern flickering in her eyes. What kind of help? I'm looking for someone, Daniel said. Someone patient. Someone trustworthy. Someone who understands my son. Lily hesitated. I'm just a waitress. Daniel shook his head. You're more than that. He told her a partial truth. He said he traveled often for work. He said Noah needed special care, especially when Daniel couldn't be around. He didn't mention wealth. He didn't mention his real name. I can't afford much, Daniel added, watching her closely. It would mean extra time, extra effort. Lily thought for a long moment. Her fingers tightened around the cloth in her hands. I already work 2 shifts, she said quietly. But if it's for your son, I could try. Even if it's just a few hours. Daniel felt something heavy lift from his chest. Why would you do that? He asked. Lily met his eyes. Because someone once helped me when I had nothing. And because your son deserves kindness, not pity. They agreed on a simple arrangement. Lily would help with Noah in the evenings a few days a week. Nothing formal. No contracts. Just trust. That evening, Lily arrived at Daniel's modest rented apartment, the one he used whenever he traveled without revealing his real life. Her eyes widened slightly at how clean and quiet it was, how carefully everything seemed arranged around Noah's needs. Noah greeted her with a shy smile. Hey, superhero, Lily said. Ready for round 2? Over the next few days, Lily proved herself again and again. She helped Noah practice holding a cup without spilling. She turned therapy exercises into games. She celebrated every tiny success like it was a miracle. And when Noah grew frustrated, she never raised her voice. She simply waited, patient as time itself. Daniel watched from a distance, his heart aching and healing all at once. One night, Noah managed to button his shirt by himself for the first time in weeks. He looked at Lily, eyes shining. I did it, he said proudly. Yes, you did, Lily replied, clapping softly. I knew you could. Noah turned to his father. Did you see Papa? Daniel nodded, unable to speak. That night, after Noah fell asleep, Daniel sat across from Lily at the small kitchen table. You're doing more than I asked, he said quietly. Lily shrugged. He's trying so hard. How could I not? Daniel took a deep breath. The time was coming. The test was nearly over. Because soon, Lily would discover the truth. And when she did, everything would change. The change in Noah did not happen overnight, but it was undeniable. Daniel noticed it in the small things first. Noah woke up with less fear in his eyes. He tried more even when his hands shook. He laughed more freely, a soft, genuine laugh that filled the quiet apartment and lingered long after it faded. And at the center of this change was Lily, her calm voice, her endless patience, her ability to make Noah feel capable instead of broken. One evening, as Lily helped Noah stack wooden blocks on the floor, He suddenly lost control of his hand. The blocks tumbled down with a loud clatter. Noah froze, his chest rising fast, panic building in his eyes. Daniel instinctively moved forward, but Lily gently raised her hand, signaling him to wait. "It's okay," she said softly, sitting beside Noah. "Blocks fall. That doesn't mean you failed." Noah's lip trembled. "I ruin everything." Lily shook her head firmly but kindly. "No. You're learning. And learning is messy." She placed one block in his hand again. Slowly, carefully. Noah tried once more. The block stayed upright. Daniel turned away, pretending to adjust something on the shelf because his eyes were burning. Later that night, after Noah had fallen asleep, Daniel offered Lily a cup of tea. They sat quietly for a moment, the hum of the refrigerator filling the silence. "You're changing him," Daniel said finally. Lily looked surprised. "He's changing himself. I'm just cheering." Daniel studied her face. There was no pride in her expression, no sense of achievement, only quiet care. "Can I ask you something personal?" Daniel said. She nodded. "Sure." "Why are you working here?" he asked. "You're smart, patient. You could do more." Lily smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes this time. "Life doesn't always give you choices. My mother was sick. Medical bills. Then she passed away. I dropped out of college to work. This job keeps the lights on." "I'm sorry," Daniel said sincerely. "It's okay," she replied. "I still believe things can change." Daniel felt the weight of his secret press harder against his chest. He had built empires on honesty and contracts, yet here he was, hiding the truth from the one person who mattered most in this moment. The following week, Daniel decided to push the test further. He told Lily he might lose his job. "They're downsizing," he said one evening, his voice carefully uncertain. "If that happens, I won't be able to pay you anymore." Lily looked at him for a long moment. "What about Noah?" "I don't know," Daniel said quietly. "I might have to move. Or find someone else." Lily shook her head immediately. "No." Daniel frowned slightly. "No. I mean," she took a breath. "No, I won't abandon him. Even if you can't pay me. Even if you move. I'll help however I can." Daniel's heart slammed against his ribs. "You do that?" he asked. "Yes," Lily said without hesitation. "Because this isn't about money. It never was." Daniel turned away, overwhelmed. The next morning, he received a call that sealed his decision. One of his executives informed him that a new pediatric neurological research center was ready for funding. It would be named after Noah, if Daniel approved. Daniel ended the call with trembling hands. That evening, he asked Lily to come early. When she arrived, the apartment felt different. The air was heavy, like a storm about to break. Noah sat quietly on the couch, sensing something unusual. Daniel stood near the window, staring out at the city lights. "There's something I need to tell you," he said finally. Lily's stomach tightened. "You're scaring me." Daniel turned to face her. His voice was calm, but his eyes were filled with emotion. "My name isn't Daniel Turner," he said. "That's not who I am." Lily blinked. "What?" "My real name is Daniel Royce." The name hung in the air. Lily laughed nervously. That's funny. Like the billionaire?" Daniel nodded slowly. "I am that billionaire." The room went silent. Lily took a step back. "No. That's not possible." Daniel pulled out his phone and showed her articles, photos, headlines. His face. His name. His company. Her hands began to shake. You lied to me," she whispered. "Yes," Daniel said. "And I'm sorry." "Was this a game to you?" Her voice cracked. "Was my kindness some kind of experiment?" "No. Daniel said firmly, stepping closer. It was never a game. It was fear. Fear of seeing kindness disappear the moment money appeared. Tears filled Lily's eyes. So you tested me. Daniel didn't deny it. I needed to know if you were real. And you are. Lily shook her head, overwhelmed. I don't know how to feel. I don't expect you to, Daniel said softly. But I need you to know this. Everything you did for Noah was real to him. And to me. Noah looked up at Lily, confused. Are you leaving? He asked quietly. That broke her. She knelt in front of him, tears spilling freely now. No, sweetheart. I'm not leaving. She looked up at Daniel, pain and strength in her eyes. But things can't go back to how they were. Daniel nodded. I know. What he didn't know was that Lily's next choice would shock him even more than her kindness ever had. Lily didn't sleep that night. She lay awake in her small rented room, staring at the cracked ceiling, replaying every moment in her mind. The way Daniel had spoken so humbly. The worn clothes. The modest apartment. The lies that now felt like shadows hiding something enormous. She felt foolish for not seeing it sooner, and yet angry for being tested like a subject in someone else's experiment. But beneath the anger, something else stirred. Noah's smile. His laughter when he finally managed to hold a cup on his own. The way he clung to her hand when he felt frustrated. None of that had been fake. None of that had been about money. By morning, Lily had made her decision. She returned to Daniel's apartment later that day. Daniel opened the door, his face tense, as if he had been holding his breath for hours. I didn't know if you'd come, he admitted. I came for Noah, Lily said simply. She stepped inside and knelt beside Noah, who looked up at her with relief flooding his face. You came back, he said. Of course I did, Lily replied gently. I promised. Daniel watched, unsure of what came next. After settling Noah with a book, Lily turned to Daniel. We need to talk. They sat across from each other, the air heavy again. I won't take your money, Lily said firmly. Daniel blinked. What? I won't be your employee, she continued. Not like this. Not knowing who you are. Daniel's chest tightened. I understand if you want to leave. I'll never force. That's not what I said, Lily interrupted calmly. I'll still help Noah, but not for pay. And not under a lie. Daniel stared at her. Why would you do that? Because if I accept your money now, she said, everything I did before will feel stained. Like it had a price all along. Daniel felt something crack inside him. You deserve to be paid, he said quietly. You deserve so much more. Maybe, Lily replied. But this is my choice. Daniel nodded slowly. He had faced ruthless investors, hostile takeovers, and boardroom betrayals, but nothing had ever humbled him like this moment. Over the following weeks, Lily continued helping Noah freely, sincerely, without conditions. She refused expensive gifts, turned down checks, and avoided anything that felt like repayment. She brought homemade meals sometimes, even though she could barely afford them. Daniel noticed something else too. The more Lily stayed true to herself, the more Noah flourished. One afternoon, during a therapy session arranged by Daniel's private specialists, Noah surprised everyone by taking 3 small steps on his own. The room fell silent. I'm walking, Noah whispered. Lily's hands flew to her mouth. Tears streamed down her face. You're walking, she echoed. Daniel dropped to his knees, overcome. Later that day, Daniel asked Lily to accompany them to the hospital. I need you there, he said. For Noah. At the hospital, Lily realized something was different. The building was new, clean, massive. And when the staff saw Daniel, they straightened instantly, calling him Mr. Royce, with respect and urgency. Lily's heart raced. Daniel led them into a large conference room where doctors, therapists, and administrators waited. On the wall behind them was a digital rendering of a future building. At the top, in bold letters, were the words, "The Noah Royce Pediatric Neurological Center." Lily's breath caught. "This," Daniel said, his voice steady but emotional, "is being built for children like Noah. Children who need care, patience, and belief." He turned to Lily. "And I want you to be part of it." The room went silent. "I'm not a doctor," Lily said softly. "No," Daniel agreed. "But you have something far rarer. You see children, not conditions." He slid a folder toward her. Inside was an offer, not just a job, but full education sponsorship, training, and a leadership role in the center. Lily pushed the folder back. Daniel's heart sank. "I won't accept this as a reward," she said. Daniel swallowed. "Then how?" Lily met his eyes. "If you want me there, let it be because I'm needed, not because you're grateful." Daniel smiled through tears. "You are needed," he said, desperately. Lily looked at Noah, who was watching her with hope shining in his eyes. "I'll do it," she said finally, "on one condition." "Anything," Daniel said. "No child is ever turned away because they're poor." Daniel didn't hesitate. "I promise." In that moment, something extraordinary happened. A billionaire wasn't giving charity. A poor waitress wasn't being rescued. Two human beings were choosing compassion over pride. And the world was about to feel the impact. The opening day of the Noah Royce Pediatric Neurological Center arrived quietly, without flashy headlines or celebrity crowds. Daniel insisted on it. He wanted the focus on the children, not on his name. Still, word spread quickly among families who had nowhere else to go. Parents carrying children in their arms, some hopeful, some desperate, all exhausted by years of closed doors and unanswered prayers. Lily stood near the entrance that morning, her hands trembling slightly as she adjusted her simple outfit. She hadn't chosen anything expensive. She never did. To her, dignity didn't come from labels. It came from how you treated people when no one was watching. She watched as the first child was wheeled inside, a little girl who couldn't speak, her eyes darting nervously around the unfamiliar space. Lily knelt in front of her, smiled, and spoke softly. "You're safe here," she said. "We're going to take good care of you." The girl reached out and grabbed Lily's finger tightly. Behind them, Daniel watched in silence. In that moment, he knew, without doubt, that every decision, every test, every fear had led him exactly where he needed to be. Noah, standing beside his father with his walking aid, looked around in awe. "Papa," he whispered, "this place is for kids like me?" Daniel knelt beside him. "Yes, my son, because of kids like you." Noah's eyes shifted to Lily. "And because of her." Daniel smiled. "Especially because of her." Months passed, and the center became something no one had expected. Children who had been ignored elsewhere were treated with patience and respect. Parents were taught how to help, not blamed for what they couldn't fix. Therapists worked with hearts as much as hands. And Lily became the soul of the place. She studied tirelessly, learned everything she could, and still made time to sit with children who were scared or frustrated. She remembered every name, every story, every small victory. One evening, as the center was closing, Lily sat beside a boy who reminded her of Noah on that first day in the restaurant. He struggled to eat, his hands shaking, food falling onto the tray. His mother stood nearby, tears in her eyes. "I'm sorry," the woman whispered. "He always makes a mess." Lily gently took the spoon, guiding the boy's hand with the same patience she once showed Noah. "There's nothing to be sorry about," she said softly. "He's trying." "That's brave." The mother broke down crying, not from sadness, but from relief. Across the room, Daniel felt his throat tighten. The past had come full circle. 1 year later, Daniel returned to the same roadside restaurant. The paint was still peeling. The tables were still uneven. But something was different. A small plaque hung near the entrance. This restaurant proudly supported the Noah Royce Pediatric Neurological Center. The owner nearly fainted when he realized who Daniel was. The staff gathered in disbelief as Daniel smiled gently, asking them not to make a fuss. "I just came for soup," he said. As Daniel sat at the same table, memories flooded back. The shaking spoon, Noah's tears, Lily's quiet kindness. He looked around and realized how close he had come to missing it all. Had Lily been tired that day? Had she looked away? Had she chosen not to care? The world would have remained unchanged. Instead, one small act of humanity had rewritten countless lives. Daniel funded scholarships for all the restaurant staff's children. He rebuilt the place without changing its soul. And when asked why, he answered simply, "This is where I learned what wealth really means." That evening at the center, Noah walked, slowly, proudly, without his aid for several steps. Lily stood nearby, hands hovering but not touching, just in case. "You're doing it on your own," she said, her voice trembling with joy. Noah beamed. "You taught me not to give up." Daniel watched his son walk toward Lily, then turned back to him. "Papa," Noah said, "are we rich?" Daniel smiled, tears in his eyes. "Yes, my son, we are. Not because of money, not because of buildings, but because compassion had chosen to show up that day in a dusty roadside restaurant. And because a poor waitress fed a disabled child without expecting anything in return. The world became a kinder place. Sometimes, the smallest moments carry the greatest power. Not the moments filled with money, fame, or applause, but the quiet ones when no one is watching. A spoon held steady. A child treated with dignity. A heart choosing kindness without expecting anything in return. That day, in a forgotten roadside restaurant, a billionaire didn't just discover a kind waitress. He discovered the true meaning of wealth. And a child didn't just receive food. He received hope. Remember this. You may never know who is watching your actions. You may never see how far one simple act of humanity can travel. But kindness has a way of returning, in ways that can change lives forever. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Because stories like this remind us all that the richest people in the world are those who choose compassion. Thank you for watching.